Hey guys, today is Friday, August 28th. The time is 3:15 p.m. and the temperature is 21 degrees Celsius. I'm here in downtown Toronto, just in front of Union Station. And I'm about to turn south onto Bay Street. And the plan for this ride is to head down to Queen's Quay along the lake. Sorry, it's a little loud under here right now. So I'll be heading down to the waterfront trail along Queen's Quay and then heading west all the way to Port Credit in the city of Mississauga. That is the Scotiabank Arena to the right. And this is the Gardiner Expressway right here. So once I travel under the Gardiner Expressway, we'll just be a couple of blocks to the lake. And the total ride should be somewhere just over 25 kilometers. And I'm not sure how long it'll take, probably about an hour and 15. The last time I did a ride to Mississauga, my camera didn't record it properly, so I ended up with nothing. So hopefully things go a little better this time. I just rode down here from Yonge and Eglinton and Midtown, and I kind of wish I had my camera running for that ride, as there were a number of pretty crazy things that happened. A few people stepped out into the street right in front of me, and I got cut off by a few cars. But such is life when you ride around in the big city. I was going to head straight ahead here to Harbour Square Park and take a ferry over to the islands today. But I was kind of hoping to do that on a nicer day than this. We are at the very end of summer, so hopefully we have some nice days left. I'm sure there'll be a few in September. So that ride around the islands is definitely one on the to-do list for this year. I also hope I can get out and just record a normal video where I take the ferry across. And that's not the easiest thing to do when you're on your bike, because you have to stay on the lower deck of the ferry. So I'm currently traveling west on the Martin Goodman Waterfront Trail alongside Queen's Quay. If you've seen cycling videos on this channel before, you're probably quite familiar with this initial part of the route. And I'll be following the trail as best as I can all the way to Port Credit. Although through Mimico, New Toronto, and Long Branch in Toronto, as well as parts of Mississauga, the waterfront is privately owned. So we'll be taking some detours around the side streets, which should be marked for cyclists. And then if I'm feeling up to it, I'll ride back to Midtown from there. And if I'm not, maybe I'll sneak onto the GO train. Well, not sneak on, I'll pay for it, of course, but it still won't feel right to do that with my bike. So we're off to a bit of a slow start, but things should open up from here on. And normally, the last few weeks of summer would be quite busy around here, with a lot of people coming to and from the Canadian National Exhibition. But for the first time in its history, they're not holding it this year, so I'm expecting things to be pretty light. And it's actually kind of perfect cycling weather. If it were any cooler, I'd probably want to wear long sleeves. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who obeys these signals. Like that guy's on his phone. It's always funny seeing people riding with their saddle too low. Their knees tend to fly way up in the air when they're pedaling. Case in point, that guy right there. His bike saddle was way too low. But if he's enjoying himself, who really cares? So this is Bathurst Street. You can turn right and take this through the city, although it's interrupted in a few spots for construction. officer was waving people through. And if you turn left there, that would take you down to Billy Bishop Airport. And normally the trail would have gone straight there into Coronation Park, but that area is under construction.
Always carrying a spare bike.
All right, let's follow their lead. And this part here has been created because they've temporarily blocked off the recreational trail. And I could have gone left there and taken that south around Coronation Park. But it's kind of a long ride, so I don't feel like too much dilly-dallying. There'd normally be a Pee-wee baseball tournament going on right now as part of the national exhibition at these softball diamonds, but obviously that's a no-go this year. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this would be the last weekend of the CNE. Not really sure when Labor Day is this year. The CNE grounds right there on the right. And that hotel on the right is the Hotel X, which is kind of a hideous structure, but it's one of two hotels housing the NHL teams here in the city during the playoffs. And we've got a very nice breeze going on. So here's where the trail would have rejoined us had I have gone south. So this is the only time in over 100 years this area has looked so dead at this time of year. Normally it would be an absolute zoo. And earlier in the summer they hold the Toronto Indy. I think it's the Honda Indy. It used to be the Molson Indy for the longest time. In this area, it actually runs along this part of Lakeshore. But that was a no-go this year. Tenet now playing at the Cinesphere. It's a big IMAX theater that these days has been playing modern movies. To the left is the Budweiser stage, formerly the Molson Amphitheater, a large outdoor concert venue. And to the right, BMO Field, home of the Toronto Argos and FC. And along this part here on the left, they'll often hold the water show during the CNE. A lot of jet ski and various acrobatic maneuvers. I haven't actually seen one of those shows since I was a kid. And on the left, Ontario Place used to be functioning as more of a theme park. There was actually a log flume ride, which I'd like to go explore in a future video. That's been removed, but some of the remnants are still there. And there was a full-scale water park in there and other various rides. But the government deemed it was losing too much money to keep it open. So it's been sort of reimagined. And the current premier, Doug Ford, was hinting that he'd like to have a casino located down here. And there was a lot of opposition and controversy with that. I don't know where we stand on that decision right now. And here are the trail forks. You could take it to the right, which runs alongside Lakeshore. But this way is much nicer. You got the Mimico skyline in the background, or on the Humber Bay Arch Bridge. That's where the Humber River dumps itself off into Lake Ontario. And growing up, none of those condos were there. It was a kind of seedy strip of low-rise motels, some of which were hourly in rate. Kind of similar to the area around Kingston Road in front of the Scarborough Bluffs, where you have a lot of those old style motels that don't really seem to exist anywhere except places like that these days. And I'll be taking so many side streets up ahead. I don't think I'll be subtitling this ride with every street and direction I'm going. That's just going to be too tedious of a task. But maybe I'll leave timestamps, and you can always just run the route on Google Maps And it should be a mirror image of the way I'm going pretty much. And this area used to be the old Sunnyside amusement park. Which obviously has since closed down. I think that was back in the 50s.
Bikes aren't the...
And you can see the Gardner Expressway on the right. And those are the rail tracks just to the right of that, where you can take the GO train from Union Station out to Etobicoke and Mississauga and Burlington. And I think during weekdays it extends all the way to Niagara Falls. So if I decide I'm not up to riding all the way back to where I live, I'll probably opt to take the GO train to Union Station, then I'll just ride home from there. That'll be about 25 minutes due north, slightly uphill. And I don't have any plans tonight, so I'm thinking I'll either record a night walk to part of the city, or maybe do another live stream. I did a live stream last night after midnight, around midnight, or around Yonge and Eglinton, just to kind of test out how that worked. And all was well. Here's the Palais Royal on the left. I've talked about this before. And I think this is the actual area where the Sunnyside amusement park was. And just off to the right is the neighborhood of Parkdale, and just north of that is Roncesvalles and St. Joe's Hospital is there, and just to the northwest of here, so that's just up to the right, is High Park. It's 3:39 and I forget what time I started this ride. Whoops. So I can't really see if my prediction is on pace or not. We will be passing through Sam Smith Park in Etobicoke, which you gotta look at the pool there. I used to go there as a kid. So Sam Smith Park is definitely one of the underrated gems in the city of Toronto. I was there yesterday. It was absolutely stunning. The best way to describe it would be as a nature preserve that backs onto the lake with what has to be the best view of the Toronto skyline. I'm quite fond of the view from Tommy Thompson Park, another place I plan to ride my bike around this year. There's some old-timey music way off down by the lake. I'm not sure if the microphone picked that up. So there's Tommy Thompson Park and Riverdale Park for great skyline views, but I think the one at Wimbrell Point and Sam Smith Park kind of takes the cake. And I also think I've swallowed a few bugs.
My boss, the first thing.
I don't normally ride while I'm talking with my mouth open. Unless I'm recording one of these videos. These two towers straight ahead, I believe they're called Palace Pier, which was the original one, and then Palace Place, which is on the left. For the longest time, were the only real high-rises in this area. So when you were driving along the Gardner Expressway, this would sort of signal you're about to enter downtown soon. But with the redevelopment of that motel strip, they've built a very large new community of condos, which we're about to enter. And this is the Humber Bay Arch Bridge I'm about to ride over. That's the Palace Pier on the right and the Palace Place on the left. If you're familiar with the Toronto Blue Jays of the 80s and 90s, some of them actually lived in Palace Pier. I don't think this counts as doxing, but Alfredo Griffin lived in there. And I know that because my parents had a pizza restaurant in Etobicoke, and he would often order from there. And that was back at a time when a lot of the Blue Jays and their staff actually drove Honda Civics, since Honda was the official sponsor of the team. I don't think you'll see too many employees of major league teams driving those these days. And you won't see them driving anything north of the border, at least this year. So this area of Toronto we're going through is called Mimico.
Like before.
And just to the west of here will be an area called New Toronto, and then just west of there will be Long Branch, and then we'll be in the city of Mississauga. There's a number of hiking trails in to the left here. Looks like an old marina on the left. Seems to be not utilized anymore.
Yeah, it was all day long.
It must be so good.
So this area is called Humber Bay Shores. Let's see if there's signs indicating to dismount. Nope. Not sure how well you can see that. I'd really like to be able to do this ride in just one continuous shot, as it is on the longer side. Otherwise I would get off at points of interest like that and look around. And at some point up here, this is going to kick us out onto Lakeshore Boulevard.
Good walk.
Whenever I see a recumbent bike like that, I always wonder if it's CJ oil. There's a nice bridge walkway just to the left of here. I don't think they would appreciate a cyclist barreling down on them. And this area is called Mimico Waterfront Park. Not because I knew that, but rather because I just read a sign. And here's where we get kicked out. So this will take us north to Lakeshore.
Quay to Meadow Park. Please wear a mask or face covering your body.
So that streetcar will be going north from there up to the Queensway, where it'll head east through Parkdale and into downtown, and then on through Riverdale, Leslieville, and the Beaches neighborhood. That's the longest streetcar line in the city of Toronto, the 501 Queen, at least when it's not short turning, which it's quite famous for doing. People will often grumble that they get on the streetcar only to get kicked off shortly after, as the streetcar driver announces it's short turning. I'm not sure if I passed it, but somewhere on the left here is the Polish consulate. I remember driving by it as a kid, always kind of marveling at what a neat looking building it was. I think this is it right here. Maybe I can get some kind of look at it. There's a lot of signs advertising vacations to Poland. I don't think they're selling too many of those right now. Although it might not be a bad time to speculate on a trip for January and February, which is what I'm starting to think about doing. There's some flights available that may or may not actually exist, but they're at nice low prices, so if you get in now, the worst that can happen will be what, a refund or a credit. Just make sure you get it through an airline you'd like to fly through again, and one that won't be insolvent. So it's probably trickier than it seems. And this is Royal York Road. So at some point just up ahead here, the streets become numbered, starting at First Street, and that will signal the end of Mimico and the beginning of New Toronto. And New Toronto will run to just past Kipling Avenue. And this here is First Street, so welcome to New Toronto. These streets all used to have more traditional names, but at some point they got all renamed after numbers. And here's the Cycle Boutique. All right, so now we're about to get tangled up in a bunch of residential streets.
Right, and he's around, and he's also...
You can see this arrow on the right telling us to turn right. Although there isn't always signs, so a little bit of common sense needs to kick in. Although you're generally heading east or west, so it's kind of hard to really screw up. And this is the Prince of Wales Park. Well, that was a short jaunt through the park. I could have just stayed on the street there. Whoa, that's really tight. Okay. A lot of this area used to be kind of considered something of a cottage country. Going back over 100 years. And this part of the city is predominantly low-rise buildings and detached dwellings. See right there, there were no signs directing me which way to go. I'm assuming it's this way. And I just did this a few weeks ago. I probably should have gone left there. So I mean, those markings on the street are kind of sporadic that direct traffic or bicycles where to go. And this is designated as a quiet street, which means it really should be local traffic only. Some gorgeous homes on the left there. And a lawn bowling club. You don't see too many of those these days. And I'm assuming I go left here. Good job with your markings, City of Toronto. And they've magically reappeared. Rotary Peace Park. Okay. And just to the right is the old Queen Street, or sorry, Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital. I got that confused with the Queen Street Psychiatric Hospital, which is now part of Humber College. I just did a walk through there, which was uploaded for a Friday morning.
Don't squeeze like that.
And this is Sam Smith Park. So on the left, you can go up to Wimbrell Point, that place I talked about earlier, where you get that spectacular view of the skyline. This park's quite famous for bird watching, apparently. And I think I mean to be on this road on the left here. Whoops. There we go. Little off-road action. Don't know how I ended up there. I think that old building is a refrigeration room of some sort. And I'm starting to think maybe I made a wrong turn. And around we go, because this is the that's Father John Redmond School on the left. So I made a brain dead move at some point back there, because I should have just been able to keep going west along the trail, but we got to look at where the 44 Kipling bus terminates. And I just walked this path yesterday. I didn't think in a million years I'd be back here for the second time in my life in as many days. Let's see if I will not screw this up this time.
No, my parents just like.
Okay, take two. Here's where I went wrong. That certainly took a few minutes off of this route. I never claimed to be an expert or a tour guide. I'm just a guy who straps a camera on my chest and kind of rambles a bit as I go for bike rides. So I apologize for that little fun detour. And now we are leaving the New Toronto area and entering Long Branch. And that straight ahead is the shoreline of Mississauga, and well off into the distance would be Oakville and Burlington, and eventually Hamilton. And some people commented in my Long Branch video that there are a lot of very nice residential homes in the area to the south of Lakeshore, and they were absolutely right. The main retail stretch itself, which is what I covered in my walking video, is actually not the prettiest place in the city. It's kind of bare, a lot of concrete, not much in the way of trees. But that's not to say it's not a nice area, as it certainly is quite nice once you get off the main street. North of Lakeshore, it's mostly a former industrial area. There are some residential developments, especially up around Horner Avenue, I think it is. It's a lot of big warehouses and just those nondescript commercial buildings you see in commercial parks out in the suburbs. But south of Lakeshore, it's really quite a nice neighborhood. And eventually we'll get to Marie Curtis Park. It shouldn't be too far ahead of here. Long Branch Park. I wonder if this is around Long Branch Avenue. It's like the fire hydrants are having an issue in this area. It's a very nice park that backs onto the lake. It's really a shame that this whole stretch along Etobicoke, along the lake, isn't nice little parks like this. And this is 36th Street, so we're getting near to the end of Etobicoke, which is a former borough. It used to be a city of its own, but in 1998 it amalgamated. That sign says go straight, but I'm pretty sure you have to turn left. What kind of idiotic design is that? Why wouldn't it say turn left? There's a stunning home that backs onto the lake. There's definitely some multi-million-dollar homes back here. "38th Street Park." And I think this ends around 43rd Street. And straight up ahead is Marie Curtis Park. Maybe I'll take a quick look at the beach and then continue on. Here we go. This is a very popular spot on the West End here in the city. Not sure what this... When you drive one of those things, you can kind of just go wherever the heck you please, right? Here's the beach. Let's just grab a sip of water, and we'll be on our way. It's not the cleanest or clearest looking water. It's certainly going to be one of the nicer places to relax in the area. And there's a park in Mississauga, well to the west of here, that I think is more popular than this place, called Jack Darling Park. It's not uncommon to find people from all over the west side of the GTA coming down to these parks in the summer. Last time I was here, I met a family that came down from Brampton. The Etobicoke Creek runs through this park, which we're about to go over. And that'll signal the end of the city of Toronto and the beginning of the city of Mississauga. And just to the north of here is Long Branch GO Station and the streetcar loop. Etobicoke Recreation Trail. All right, here's the Etobicoke Creek, or the Etobicoke Creek, as someone once referred to it on a Netflix documentary called Don't Something with Cats. I won't say the full title. Get a look into Lake Ontario. And now we head on into Mississauga, the city where I grew up. And I remember it used to have a population of, in the neighborhood of 500,000, but now it's just under 1 million. So it has become one of Canada's largest cities. It also used to be officially classified as a suburb, but I believe that's no longer the case. I read somewhere that more people are now commuting into Mississauga to work than out of Mississauga. So with that, it loses its suburb designation, although the built environment is certainly very suburban. At least north of Lakeshore Boulevard. Or I think it might be called Lakeshore Road in Mississauga, and it's all one word, whereas in Toronto it's Lake Space Shore Boulevard. One of those weird things you don't really notice till you see it, that it's spelled differently depending on which city you're in. And I wonder if there's people living in those tents. or if they're just there for the afternoon. I used to ride my rollerblades through here. I lived in an area called Lauren Park in Mississauga. And, my first girlfriend lived in Long Branch in Etobicoke, so I'd often rollerblade down this trail back when I was 16. And I remember always going past some police training barracks. At least that's what I think they were. Just up here on the left, there's a rifle range. And one of those obstacle course type deals. Here we go, just on the left. These wooden things, I think those are what police cadets would have to scale while they're in training. Feel free to correct me on that. And this is also the area where there was a small arms factory that created or supplied rifles for the World War II effort. And I think there's just one building left, which is just up here, which I probably won't get a view of. I think it's the Small Arms Inspection Building, it's called, which has obviously been repurposed since. And that's a sign that I'm definitely taking things a bit more leisurely than I normally would. Even though I'm on a single speed, I tend not to get past too often. So just here on the right is the Small Arms Inspection Building. And this is Lakeshore in Mississauga. And in this area was, I talked about this in my Long Branch video, but was the Aerodrome, Canada's first airport, where they did their first pilot training as well. I think that was right around Dixie Road, but it was called the Long Branch Aerodrome. And just up here on the left was the Lakeview, or at the Lakeview Promenade Park was an old coal-powered power plant, or coal-burning power plant, which was known for its 4 gigantic smokestacks, which dotted the lakeshore, and you could see from pretty much everywhere. And at night, if you paid close attention, you'd notice some very thick black smoke bellowing out of the smokestacks, and during the day it was just these almost cute white little puffs coming out. So clearly that was being cleverly timed. I think that's pretty standard for that type of industrial operation anyways these days. The trail is going to turn us left here. Oh, here's where Canada's first aerodrome was, at least according to the sign I just went by. And the last time I rode to Mississauga, I didn't make it this far. I just stuck on Lakeshore. So it's kind of weird coming down here. I haven't been down here since the coal power plant was here. So it's just really unusual not seeing it. It would be just south and to the right. I think there's a baseball diamond just up here on the left. Oh, it's a soccer field. I thought there were some. I remember playing baseball as a kid in this park. And there was a number of diamonds, but one of them was up here. There it is, home of the Mississauga Majors. I don't know what or who that is. Mississauga Majors baseball. Oh, is that part of the NBA league? There used to be AAA, which was OBA, that was the highest level you could play at, and then there was AA, which was the Mississauga Baseball League. And then below that, there was a select league, which we called Single A. That was basically kind of like a house league all-star team that would play in various tournaments. I played for a team in the OBA called the Clarkson Indians, and later a team that played for Arundel. Lakeview Park. Name rings a bell. We used to play a lot of games at this field here. This area certainly got a bit of a facelift. It was never quite this nicely manicured. It was always a lot more industrial feeling. And eventually, I think this will do the same thing that happened in Etobicoke, where we get kicked off the waterfront. Crooks Park, there's a name that rings a bell. And if you're wondering, I did zero research before this ride. One thing this area is well known for are its numerous goose droppings. Here's another diamond I used to play at. I think this just on the left here is man-made. This little lake thing. think I wanted to turn right there. Whoops. There's another fork in the trail. Oh, hey, squirrel. Just chilling on the road there.
That didn't kill him. But the fentanyl would have killed him.
It's a funky looking house. Whoop. So eventually we'll find our way to the Port Credit Marine area. There's a restaurant there called Snug Harbor. Which I remember as being quite popular in the area. There was an old donut shop that got converted into a Starbucks. I wonder if that's still there. And Port Credit itself is probably, in my opinion, the nicest part of the city of Mississauga. It's got a nice urban little community. There's a GO train that'll take you straight to downtown. And there'll be an LRT soon on Her Ontario that'll run north. And perhaps if I do decide to ride my bike back, I'll take it down Lakeshore and maybe make that another video through Port Credit and the Cawthra areas. As I'm not sure if that sign was directing me to turn left here or onto Lakeshore. As Port Credit's quite a nice area, and I'll come back and eventually do a walking tour through there. Oh man, there's some very nice homes in this area. It would be nice if they marked the street like they did in Toronto here, instead of having these difficult to read signs. This is Tall Oaks Park. Now we're in St. Lawrence Park. And I believe that's the Port Credit Marina. Well off in the distance here, that large turquoisey sky blue looking thing. There's a guy in a Sea-Doo. Take a quick peek. This building here on the right is one of the more recent developments. There's even a mini beach right here. Waterfront trail, keep left. And just on the right is kind of the town area of Port Credit. And No Frills is no longer there. That's interesting. This area doesn't have another proper grocery store within walking distance unless you count the Loblaws. Well off to the west from here. All right, let's follow the waterfront trail sign. And here is Snug Harbor, which I talked about earlier. This restaurant has been a staple of the area. So on the left and off to the right is the Port Credit Lighthouse. And the Starbucks is still there. All right, let's JJ Klaus Park. All right, I'm gonna head south and go into Port Credit itself, and I think I'll call this a ride as we have successfully made it to Port Credit in Mississauga. So at this point, I'll just be wandering around this area anyways. Don't know why she was waiting for me. We both had stop signs. But thank you. And here's Lakeshore Road East. Oh, the pump house is still here. I'm gonna make a left here. To the right is kind of the main retail area in Port Credit. And this is the Credit River up ahead where this area gets its name from. And this library has been a fixture of the area for a while. Dry aged. That used to be a Sunset Grill. All right, there's a park just up ahead where I've got a mini lunch waiting for me in my bag. And from there, I'll decide what I'll be doing next. I've come across a lot of really slow three-point turners on this trip. Better safe than sorry, I guess. And at least I thought there was a park down here. Is that guy not signaling his turn? JC Saddington Park. Perhaps I can find a spot to take a rest. You can kind of see the Toronto skyline way off in the distance. And I think one of these benches has my name on it. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this trip from Union Station in downtown Toronto to Port Credit here in Mississauga. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and comments in the description. There are links to Instagram and Patreon if you wish to support the channel. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next one.